go up here, and we're going to move on. We looked at last time looking at writing an equation from tables. Well, let's look and see uh, what our independent and dependent variables might do to help us. So all we're going to do first is actually identify independent and dependent variables. It's a little bit sloppy, so I'm going to just start over here. That's better. So my independent and dependent variables. And all I want to do is identify them. So there is this special function that we work with, and you're going to start using it in class. And what it is it's f of x. So whenever you see this notation of f with parentheses and an x inside, you would say f of x. And instead of f of x. Okay, that's how you would say it. So before we move forward with this, let's go over some information. And that information is looking at my independent and dependent variables, but also other terms that you use to describe independent and dependent variables. In fact, I don't even have to write it out. I'm just going to copy here. Just drag it down. These are my independent and dependent variables. And from here, what I'm going to do is just create a little table. And got two. I'm going to create 5 more rows here. I'm just going to write some other terms that are used to describe independent and dependent variables. Now, the thing you want to think about is the main message or take-home message here is that independent and dependent variables, well, the dependent variable depends on the independent variable. But other terms that are used to describe independent variable and dependent variable are the x value. And the y value. So the x being the independent and the y being the dependent. Also, it's easy to think about when you use a chart or create a graph, the independent variables are put on the x-axis when the dependent variables are put on the y-axis. So the x value is also known as the domain. Fix that in. The domain, and the dependent would be the range. The independent variable would also be considered an input value, while the dependent variable is an output value. The independent variable could be an x. The dependent would be a y. And finally, when dealing with independent values and thinking of our new unique function f of x, well, the independent variable is the x, and the dependent variable is f of x. So really, when you hear the term f of x, it's just another way of saying or writing y. Use a different color to show here. These are just the same. So let's look at another problem here. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. We'll keep these values in mind, but I am going to write out. Let's look at a word problem that says, hey, a gardener charges $5 per square foot for his yard. Charges $5 per square foot for yard maintenance. Cool. So let's find out what the independent and dependent variable are. Okay, so looking at this word problem, I'm going to go through it again, and I'm going to create another table that says independent. I'm going to just use an I for my independent, and a DEP for my dependent. The only reason I'm doing this is because of space. So my independent value would be, or variable would be, the number of square feet for the yard. However, my dependent variable is the cost or total charged. So the number of square feet for the independent variable. And cost or the total charged. Or total amount, doesn't really matter. Okay, so what would those values actually be? Change colors here just to get some more color sequence in. Well, let's look at this, and I've got to erase one part before moving forward, and that's the bottom of this chart. Right here, it doesn't matter to have this little block in. I actually want this bottom block to be the same, so, and just include it as one entire block, because I'm going to write an equation that combines both the independent and the dependent variables. So let's think of my dependent variable. Well, my dependent variable is y. It is my f of x and my unique function f of x. So I'm going to write f of x, or y, meaning y. It equals, well, it equals the total cost, or the total charge. So I'm trying to find out what's the cost of yard maintenance. Well, it's going to equal something to do with square feet, the number of square feet. So the cost is going to equal the number of square feet. Let's call the number of square feet. Well, I can use any of these values here in the chart. I'm going to use x. It equals x, but it also equals the number of dollars charged per square foot, because x equals number of square feet. So $5 times x, so 5x. So f of x equals 5 times x, or 5x.